What's up, everybody? Welcome back. God's Got It, episode 2. I'm not gonna lie, I have the giggles because literally before we just started this episode, I spoke in tongues for the first time in my whole life, and my system is a little bit.
And it literally created like where we're gonna go in this episode today.
Yeah, how wild that we were just talking about our topic for this and that happened.
Well, so we made it a point, obviously, like God is at the center of everything, so we're praying before episodes. And one of the things that I'm finding we're consistently saying in our prayer is like, God, be on our tongues. Like speak through us what you will have spoken into the show. And I was praying over this episode, and afterwards, Jen was like, oh my God, there's like something in my head, like something moving in my head that has to come out right now. And yeah, spoken tongues for the first time.
That was the weirdest experience ever.
Can you like explain how that feels in your body?
I mean, there's just this like buzzing I feel, but also like an overwhelming sense of just like joy. Like right now, even talking about it, I'm getting tingles like all down my arms, and like my heart feels really wide open. Mm-hmm. And it's just so interesting because as I sit here and I'm talking to you about it, like as it's just this normal-ish thing, I remember in past when I've heard people speaking in what is called tongues, it was like such an interesting but like way out there topic to me. You know, like I don't get that. What are they doing? That seems very, very weird. I have this very distinct memory, like from about 9 years ago, seeing people speak in tongues. And I was like, tap my dad on the shoulder, like, what are they doing? What is that?
Yeah.
And now, as I'm like growing in my faith and I'm around other people that have like tapped into that energy, it's just like, it's so wild.
It's such an interesting experience. And it makes it like right now, the energy in the room is like so palpable. Like I feel that same thing of like, I wasn't even in my like language practice, but just listening to that happen for you, I feel like it made the whole room just like, okay, yep, God's here. I mean, God's always here, right. But it's like, again, it's like that visceral experience, which is such an important part of our mission and what it is that we want to invite and help people heal home to, is that like God isn't just this thing that you're taught to believe in because you're supposed to and what you're going to get out of it and to avoid going to hell. It's like this beautiful, sensational, experiential relationship that you can have in your body when you literally heal that resistance that we have to the bigness of that love, is like how I see it.
Yeah. So if you're watching this episode and I'm looking a little buzzy, like I'm falling out of my seat, just wanted you to know that that's what is happening here.
And because literally before we hit record, we're like
what is happening? Yeah, but like, what a beautiful transition to our topic today, because we wanted to like really lean into prayer.
But we thought we were going to be talking more about, and we will. We're talking more about like conversational prayer and talking to God and building that relationship through direct, just open, honest communication, totally forgetting like the gift that is like praying in tongues as well, which is so funny for me because my background, I come from a very mystic, psychic background. Like that's where my spiritual exploration started, because I was healing my nervous system, coming home to my body, healing through a lot of trauma, and through the like excavation of that trauma, speaking in tongues, speaking in the spirit, what I called at that time, that I truly believe, guys, is the same thing, and we'll get into that. I called it light language because that's what I saw of like how it was presented to me, and like that was my first. I'm having this revelation in real time right now. That was my first entryway into prayer. Like that just started happening to me on my healing journey, and I'd sit in my meditation practice and be in that and be feeling that you're talking about, that buzziness, that warmth, that like, oh yeah, like God is here and I know who God is. And I didn't even look at that as like, oh, I've been walking with a prayer practice for years, because what I saw, what I thought around that was that it was like just a gift that was given to me to help people heal their nervous systems and their trauma and the things that are stuck in their body energetically. And it's been coming home to Christ that's really solidified that, like, that is the Holy Spirit, that is God moving through.
Yes. I love that. And I'm having a memory now of when I would hear you speak in what at the time we called your light language. And I'm like, it kind of sounds like tongues, like similar to what I know from reading the Bible about, people having this like gift of being able to speak in tongues. So I never knew the difference. Like I would hear some people call it light language, and then I'm like, speaking in tongues, aren't they the same?
Yeah. And I think that people inside of the more Christian space, or people inside of Christianity, have a fear around like, where is light language coming from? Because people in psychic spaces who have opened up to and are channeling like aliens and other beings and all of that, it's almost like that might be something that's like wrong or bad, right?
Okay.
And I know that that's like it's a deep belief inside of Christianity, not one that I can say that I hold in an embodied way. Like I always say, I trust God to change and convict me in whatever way. But for me, what's really interesting is like when I was more in that space, I always felt like not ashamed, but like shy, because people would be like, oh, what is your language? What are you channeling? And they'd be talking about all these different like beings and things like that. And I'm like, can I say God?
Am I loud?
Am I allowed? Because it's just God. And I felt kind of like, oh, like I'm not connecting enough to these like other things, or like feeling like I need to like keep up in a way. But it's always been that for me. And simultaneously, as I was feeling my walk home to Jesus and to Christianity, I was really afraid that experience for me like was wrong and bad, that like there was some like that I'm being tricked in some way, because it's like it was happening for me before I was naming and claiming Jesus. But in naming and claiming Jesus, I have brought that prayer so many times, and he's like, it's been me all along. Like I was getting to you in a way that was going to serve you coming all the way home to God. And like if I just, because of the judgments and the fears and the things that I had Jesus just walked on the scene and been like, you're going to speak tongues, I'd be like, no. No, right? Because previously, my only experience to like tongues was I had never even heard it. I just knew that like an uncle of mine prayed in tongues, and one of my cousins as like a kid, he like did it over her when she had a headache, and we kind of like joked and laughed about it afterwards, that she was like, I don't know what just happened, because we were little kids. She's like, I don't know what all that just was, And that was really my only experience with it until I started having this big awakening of spiritual gifts happening to me, and I finally felt safe enough to bring it to my mom. And I named, like, when I'm in healings with people, there's this like language that comes through, or when I'm like meditating, there's this language that comes through, and it feels so peaceful, but I'm sure that it sounds really weird. And she's like, well, that sounds like speaking in tongues. And she's like, I used to love going to like the prayer circles with her mother, my grandmother, and like having that experience. And I remember so clearly now that she looked at me and she's like, I don't think you're all that different from the people that you're like so afraid to connect to, right? Because at that point I had a very much like Christianity and Jesus and religion and all of that is like, don't bring that near me,
Right.
So it's interesting to experience the evolution of that, and also be able to be in a place where I can experientially name that, like, to me, in my experience thus far, in my prayer practice and my direct connection to Jesus, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I love that. Powerful reflections.
Yeah.
Thanks for, I'm trying to like reflect, on my experience. Like I said, I've only ever, up until recently, like speaking in tongues or hearing that light language was never anything I was exposed to. And so it's interesting to reflect on even my time with you and hearing you speak in it and some people online. I had this ooh, is that right? Is that like a bad thing?
Like, is it okay?
Is it okay? And like found myself sitting in this space of, you know, just questioning. And now I feel like it just now happened in this moment. I'm like, okay, cool, God. Like that was okay.
So something actually that came through for me in my devotional this morning, because I woke up with like hella imposter syndrome. Like I woke up and I was like, who am I and what are we doing and who do I think I am? And I just sat with the fear that's connected to being someone who speaks about and teaches on and like ministers God and helps people heal home to God. And something that came through like directly from Jesus this morning, it was like, what would your relationship to me look like if you weren't seeking outside validation for what that relationship is supposed to look like? Almost like if it was just me and him from the beginning and I didn't have other people's opinions, I didn't have a book, I didn't have the like doctrine of Christianity, what would my relationship with God look like? And it was always this like embodied experience of what I now know is the Holy Spirit, right? So I have a really hard time with people who immediately will look at people's experiences before they came home to Christ and be like, no, all of that was wrong and bad, because my experience is that all of that is what I needed to walk home to God. And even before I came all the way home to Christ, he's showing me like I was there, like that, like those gifts were always from me. That language was always from me. Your heart for healing was always from me. So like, no, it's not wrong and bad. You're just claiming it now. And I feel like that puts more power behind it.
I like that. Yeah. And I know we're going to have another episode where we dive deep into like how other humans and, you know, being in these certain spaces has really created a negative narrative around some of these things and like what the walk is supposed to look like. And I think that's really why we wanted to dive into prayer, because I think, you know, people have this very like preconceived notion of what prayer is supposed to look like, right? And we see that because, well, like we see it at churches, we see it in movies. Like it's always this like, okay, I'm here, right? I'm on my knees and it has to look a certain way and be a certain way. And we have to show up a certain way. And I know for me, that like really put up this block of resistance of me coming and like having this dialogue. It felt super performative for me. And I had this deep story that like, I have to look a certain way. I have to be living a certain way. Almost like I had to earn the right, to be able to go and meet with this person.
I had to be godly to be in relationship with God.
Yeah. And it was so performative of like, okay, I just have to like do the right thing. I'm sinning all over the place and I'm messy and I yelled at my mom the other day. Like, who am I to come and be in this presence? And that took a really long time for me to unravel. And I think part of that, you know, and I would be talking in other circles and people would be like, oh, well, like, imagine it like your father. And I'm like, okay, well, if I didn't have the greatest relationship with my father. So then in my head, I'm like, I'm being criticized, you know, name calling, right? You have all of these human experiences with that. So
projections.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, no, I definitely can't go there. I had this view that going to God was a disciplinarian. And so if I was going to go and pray, I was always going to be like reprimanded. And, you know, by the work that we've done together and like through our conversations and me just like coming back home in my own body and, you know, sitting with those dialogues, it's just such a different experience now. And that's what we really, I think, want to spend some time leaning into today. Yeah.
I guess for like, up until, I guess it was a year ago, my understanding of prayer, because I come from a Catholic upbringing, was like memorized prayers. Like the only thing I knew of prayer was like Our Father who art in heaven, and like I could memorize and spew them, right? Because I did them when I was a kid. My mom had us do them before bed, and inside of that, we'd be like, we would pray for our loved ones, right? Like if someone was going through somewhere, or like I prayed for my mom, my dad, my brother, my dog, and like that was my connection to prayer. And I'm so grateful. A year ago, I was very God guided into an ordination program, and I like didn't even know really why. And the first thing that we were taught in that was like prayer as a direct, vulnerable conversation with God. And immediately I started practicing that every day, sometimes multiple times a day. Really, anytime I was by myself, it was just like, hey, God, like, here's what I'm feeling. This is what's on my heart. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I need help with. Thanking, being in gratitude, right? And then also asking for like prayers for those around me. Like it just being this really real raw conversation, which previously it's like I needed somebody to tell me that praying is just having a conversation with God. And that changed my entire relationship with it. I mean, previously, like I said, until I just had this revelation, I didn't think I had a relationship to prayer prior to that. But it just felt like the most natural, normal thing in the world. Like I had already been walking with God in a way for a while, but then that invitation or really permission to like just open your mouth and speak, right? And it felt clumsy at first. Like I still felt myself sometimes being in that performative place of like, what does this need to look like? And honestly, I will say sometimes when because I devoted myself to a prayer practice every single day, and days where it felt awkward or fumbly, I actually would go back to some of the Catholic prayers and like just allow that to be something that satiated.
Yeah, like an anchor
like
point.
an anchor point, because that is like the root of where it came from. But yeah, I would say that just having that ongoing daily conversation with God opened up my relationship with God in a way that nothing else had. Like before that, I had a feeling of God. I had a like, oh yeah, God is real. But I was also working through the like, if I can just heal myself hard enough, then I can like live in oneness with God, versus recognizing that the beauty and the peace actually comes from accepting our humanity and being in relationship with God, not trying to become perfectly godly, right? And it's like I almost had that same experience as you, just from a different angle of like, I need to become this perfect God-like specimen. I need to become a Jesus, right? Instead of knowing that I could lean into that being just a relationship that could like satiate and bring so much peace to my life. And it was through that prayer practice that it just started happening naturally, that I was like, oh my God, I don't have to become God. I can just be in relationship with God. I can be a daughter of God. I can be a friend of God. I can be a lover of God, you know? And looking at it that way, I feel like made it so much more grounded, instead of this endless pursuit and chase of like, my mission here on earth is to become this godlike being, right? To ascend fully into oneness. Now it's like, no, my experience here is to be a human, and a part of the gift of the human experience is the relationship that we've been given through Jesus that we get to have with God, you know?
Yeah, and allowing him to meet us like in the messiness. And you know, it's so funny. I was saying, I was sitting here trying to think, like, I don't remember when I had that revelation, but I actually do. And it was, you know, when I was going through some really hard times in 2018. I know maybe I'll dive into this conversation a little bit on one of the later episodes. I think we're going to have to
do like testimony episodes.
Yeah. But there was a moment in my life where I was basically stripped of everything. And it was in that moment where I didn't have anything. And the words were as simple as like, God help, you know? That like, woo, that's like making me feel really emotional, because that's all I had, you know? And I think that's such an important piece to really land home for like anybody who's listening to this and you're like feeling that stickiness of like, I don't know how to pray. It literally can be like, God help. God help me. Like, God,
Yeah.
what's up.
And like you have to just take this step and then God meets you there, right? Like that's something that I have learned through the depths of like the massive journey I went on spiritually, is that like God is going to meet you exactly where you are, even if you don't realize that that's what's happening, right? It's like the reality of God is that he is everywhere all the time, always. And he is never away from you. He is never separate from you. It is an illusion that we hold as human beings, that he's far away or that we're forgotten or that we're too bad or too broken or too sinful, where the experience that we have now is like God is always there to just be like, it's okay, you're okay, it's okay, you're okay. And of course, naturally guiding you through that process to turn away from the things that keep you more separate from God, turn you away from the things that you were seeking only because of that void that you had, that you weren't connected to God, right? And yeah, prayer has just been like such a powerful process for me in that. And that's coming from somebody who like, I did and I have reverence for all the practices, right? Breathwork and embodiment and the excavation of the imprints of trauma that is so real, and it has to be talked about inside of Christian spaces, because I think we need more trauma informed. We need more people talking about the reality that like not everything that we experience that's dark or heavy is like an external demonic force. Like we'll get to that. It exists. But the reality of what I have realized through the depths of the healing work that I have done and that I've helped walk others through is that so much of that separation that we're feeling from God happens actually because of the traumas that we have endured, right? So again, coming from somebody who was like so into all of the practices and those really helped open my body to receive God, there has been nothing like direct conversation and prayer to build that like unfuckwithable relationship, right? Where now it's like I am walking hand in hand every single day with Jesus.
So good. So yeah, I feel the same way. I was taking a moment there to reflect on what my own prayer practice looks like. I agree with you 100%. I've used those various things for me. Landing in breath in my body has been just such a great way for me to connect in and have those conversations, and welcoming and inviting in that dialogue throughout my day. I think I had this story that it was either like first thing in the morning on my knees by a bed, and I respect that, and I think there's something very beautiful to a prayer practice where you are in that kind of surrender. But in my head, I had built it that was the only way to do it. And now I'll be like getting in my car to drive to the gym in the morning, and it's like, hey God, me again. You know,
are you there? He's like, always.
Yeah. You know, and it's just so funny, like the banter that I have in those conversations with God now. That armor has been laid down on my end. Obviously, he never had any armor up. He was just waiting, you know? And I just also just want to name, I love the patience that is there, like how God really is like so gracious and kind in that way, and will use so many different avenues to get to you. But I love that I have laid down that armor, that it doesn't have to look any kind of way. And so driving in the car, it's like I'm talking to one of my very best friends. And I love that.
Yeah.
It feels so good to like lean into that unconditional love that I don't know, but I don't know that that's like attainable as like we living in this human world. Like, do we ever truly deeply experience that?
I think in moments, but I think we're not meant to like hold it completely, right? Because that's God's job, and that's the experience of us getting to experience God is like coming, and it will transform the way that you are able to unconditionally love. I don't know that we can ever touch the like perfect love of God, but that's another thing that my prayer practice has done. It's like it softened me so much, softened my heart, made me more forgiving, made me more open, made me more loving. And now I even find that like in moments where I am, I don't know, contracted or would be reactive to something, the the way that like my brain is wired now is I like go to prayer even around those things, and then it's like it immediately opens my system. I feel like where I am now with God, with Jesus, with my prayer practice is like such a natural evolution from where I came from. But it got to a point inside of just healing work that every time I got some kind of trigger or contraction, it was like, okay, I'm going to have to bring that to a practice, and I'm going to have to look at that, and I'm going to have to figure out what is the root cause of that. And eventually I got to this point where I'm like, oh my God, in Jesus, I can just accept my humanity. Yes. And in Jesus, it's a moment of like, my mind just like turns to prayer of like, Jesus, can you help me hold this? And all of a sudden my body like opens and I soften and I'm not angry anymore, right? Yeah. Versus the like, nope, I'm just going to like swallow down that anger and we'll deal with it later. And I have to be the one to figure it out. And that's what's been such like a miraculous evolution for me inside of that direct and ongoing prayer, right? That like, I now know that I don't have to be the healer and the fixer of absolutely everything. And the peace that comes from that is like, I've never felt anything like it before. Like I was working and working and working and working and working literally to get to this place.
Right.
I didn't know that this is where I was trying to go. I definitely didn't know that, but I'm so grateful for it now. And prayer has been the thing that really did that work in me.
Yeah, that resonates so deeply with me. And I think we'll tap into this even. That'll be worth another episode of that hamster wheel of healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became like another addiction.
Mm-hmm.
I was seeking out mentorship from so many different people. Like, I've got this deep pain and I've got this deep trauma and I've got this thing. And I was, again, like chasing to find the answer. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you'd uncover one thing and I'd like respond in a certain way to someone or some situation. I'm like, oh, more healing to do. Like, let's get back in there. And like you said, the peace that has now come from just being able to lay that down. And I'm not perfect at it. Mm-hmm. I will be the first to say I'm always a work in progress. It's like a constant forget, remember. But like always having to bring it back. I actually don't have to figure this out.
I actually don't have to fix this.
I actually don't have to pick that scab. Yeah. And like how amazing that feels.
Right.
Go ahead.
Because something that I love so much about reading the Bible and being in God's word and learning directly like who God says he is, specifically through the Gospels, right? The red letters of Jesus, is that like it's already done. We're already whole. Mm-hmm. We're the ones who are holding on to these pains and these illusions of separation. And when you can get into that direct relationship and that direct conversation and you begin to feel comfortable there and you begin to learn experientially who and what God is in your life, and you can then allow yourself to just give it over and give it over and give it over, it's like you're at a certain point, healing work becomes this unconscious action where you're continuously validating your brokenness. Of like, I just have to fix one more thing. I just have to fix one more thing. I just have to fix one more thing. And the freedom that I have received in coming home to Jesus through that work is like, there's nothing left to fix, right? I'm going to be a human. I'm going to have my things. I'm going to have my problems and my pains, but I get to give that over again and again and again and again. And something that's so important to me in like my ministry when I'm working with women on how to come home to that experiential relationship is exactly that it is a relationship. And just like you get into a relationship with a lover or with a friend, the more you show up in that relationship, the more honest and open and vulnerable and communicative you get in the relationship, the more you are able to receive the other side of that relationship, and the more the other side of that relationship gets open and honest and communicative with you. So that direct prayer practice, that conversation, is literally how we learn how to hear God, because we can all hear God. And I think that that's another really important part of the work and the mission that we have here, is that there was a point in time where church kind of said, like, you have to go through a priest or you have to go through someone else to get to God. Right? And I think that that's a resistance that a lot of people have with Jesus of like, I can go directly to God. But from my understanding, my belief now, it's like Jesus is God.
Yeah.
Jesus is the human personification. Like God came down in human body so that we could have that direct understanding in our psyches of his nature.
So let's dive in just a minute. Like, share, what does your prayer practice look like now?
Every morning I'm not perfect at this, for the first thing that I do to be a devotion. What that looks like for me is sitting in silence, closing down my eyes, breathing. I really like to connect into that direct, like bringing that direct experience. But I want to name for anybody listening, if you're new to this, like that can take some time to be able to really plug into that feeling right away. It might not, right? Like, but my direct prayer practice is closing down my eyes, taking a breath, naming, dear God, Jesus, can you just be here with me in this moment? Starting with gratitude, like anchoring into an energy of gratitude, thanking, like immediately thanking him for all of the beauty that's moving in my life. And then I usually will go right into just naming what I'm feeling, what's coming up for me. I want to say here, I don't only pray when I need something, when I use it a lot in that, right? When I'm coming to him with like a problem or a struggle or a strife. But yeah, going into gratitude and just talking out loud about how I'm feeling. And that can be, I'm struggling with this. This is how I'm feeling. This is what's coming up. But I really like to also be in a practice of like, I'm celebrating so hard right now.
Yeah.
Like everything is so beautiful. And then, yeah, asking for what I need support in. And really it is as simple as it being a conversation. Like I talk out loud the way I would talk to my husband. I talk out loud the way I would talk to my best friend. Only at this point, it's like, it feels like even closer than that, right? Like there are no walls. So yeah, I try to start my day in that space. And then beyond that, for me, it's an all day thing. Like you said, like I'm getting in the car, I'm cooking, I'm going on a walk. It's like, it's just become this thing that's kind of like weaved its way into most of the moments of my day. And then actually more recently, a really beautiful like evolution of my prayer practice is my husband and I have been praying together every night before we go to bed, which I really, really, really,
I love that.
I love that because, yeah, wow, I'm going to get emotional right now. When I first started navigating my healing journey and had like such a massive spiritual awakening, I had this big fear that my awakening was going to like take me away from my husband, that I was going to like evolve too much and he was just like not into the same things that I was experiencing. And that was a really big fear of mine, which I now like see was a like distortion of kind of the space that I was in, that I was going to like become more than, in a way. And it's been really beautiful to land home in Christ and for this very natural evolution for him to now like be so interested in his relationship with God. So yeah, I begin my day and end my day with prayer, and I spend all day praying. That's what my prayer practice looks like. What about you? What does yours look like?
That's so good. I find so many different ways. For me, music is a huge way for me to like immediately drop in. I don't know if that's because my background is in music and I've always kind of had this affinity for it, but music just is my immediate anchor point. If I am sad, if I'm frustrated, if I'm overwhelmed, if I feel that like I need to connect in, I can turn on some tunes and just like, I mean, worship tunes. It's not like we're in here like up in the club. But I will, yeah, immediately.
Time and place.
Right. Put on some worship music and immediately like feel myself anchored in. I'm almost always brought to tears when I listen to worship music, and I do feel like that's a way that God is communicating with me. And again, it's a for me feels like a permissioning. The capacity or the ability or the permission to know I don't have to carry it all. And I think I am a person who just walks around, and I still struggle at times with what I will lay down and what is mine, and like, oh, you can handle this, God, but like this one I'm gonna keep close to the chest. So in those moments, I think that is God's way of saying to me like, hey, you don't have to. I mean, you can if you want, but like give it to me. And the tears to me are always like feeling like that sense of surrender. Breathing, breath work is a huge part of my daily practice. And so I will often start my morning with that. If not music, then I'm going to land in 5 minutes of a deep breath to signal. Like it's a kind of a heart opening for me of like, okay, I'm here. I do read my Bible usually in the morning. And yeah, I have a very conversational, experience with God. Like, hey, it's me again, your bestie. I know you're tired of hearing about that thing, but like, it's still an issue for, like, I just try to make it feel so like cozy. And that just really works for me. Mm-hmm. And similar to you, I kind of keep that dialogue going all day. And then in the evening time, I typically will sit down and go through, like, kind of play the inventory of how my day went and like practice that gratitude. Gratitude's so important. I think that should be an episode that we lean into also. But yeah, like just naming like how things went really well that day, or like the things I'm super grateful for. So it looks a little different for me every day, I would say.
I think that's an important point to make, right? It's not, we can give you a formula. It's not a formula.
Right.
We can give you tips and tricks and how-tos.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, one of the most, I think, like beautiful but also frustrating parts about being like a spiritual teacher is that it's like people do want to come to you and like seek answers. Yeah. And I'm like, all I can guide you into is relationship and experience. And it's going to be so personal and so intimate in that way. But like with that being said, and I'm so glad you brought up the worship music piece, because I think that's really important for people who maybe are like just beginning to learn who and what God is and allow that into their lives. Like music has this beautiful way of creating that experience that we're talking about, right? Like we're talking about an embodied experience of faith, something that is felt like in the depths of your soul, that gives you chills through your body, right? Like it's this connection that just is in the bones of all of our beings. Yes. And I think that music is a really beautiful gateway for that, for people who are still struggling to be in their bodies, or who do have to still go through nervous system healing and some somatic processing and like letting go of the heavier weights of what's sitting around their heart that's making it hard for them to feel that. So for anybody listening, if you are just now coming home to that experience and you're desiring just from this conversation to like, okay, I want to start a prayer practice, like music is like such a beautiful place to start. And I really want to like anchor in the, like, it is just a conversation. Yeah. It's just a conversation.
Keep it simple, right? Like, I think we're just, as humans, we're always trying to overcomplicate things. Mm-hmm. Like, if you just are curious about what it can look like to have the dialogue, it can just literally talking. Say his name. Yeah. You know, hey, hey, big guy, or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it can just be so simple. Yeah. And if you're looking for like a formula, because we are meaning-making machines, I would say,
Inviting God in.
Invite God in.
Hey, God.
Hey, right? Thanks for meeting me here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's going on here, but I'm here.
Naming gratitude.
Yeah.
Like it does feel important. Like if you are going to try to follow a formula so that you can get comfortable, calling out to him, naming what you're so grateful for, and really allowing yourself the experience of like feeling that gratitude, not just like saying like, yeah, I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for that. And even that can be a struggle sometimes. So like allowing it to be a practice, but naming what you're grateful for, speaking what is on your heart. Are you coming with grief? Are you coming with pain? Yeah. Are you coming with sadness? Are you coming with joy? Are you coming with love? Are you coming with heartbreak? Speaking that out loud and then asking for what it is you need.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a part that people really struggle with. You named in the beginning, like the unworthiness piece, is that like we can feel so unworthy to actually ask for what it is that we need. Mm-hmm. But God is like, ask and it will be given.
Yeah. No prayer is too big or too bold. Yeah. Or too small.
Yeah.
He wants it all. I think that's the part that like we really want to hit home here is he wants all of it.
And all of you.
And all of you.
Not just your pretty perfected parts.
Right. Yes.
And because he will be the thing that helps to actually transform that pain into power or pleasure or prosperity. Yeah. It's really just inviting him in and letting that relationship evolve. I love using that metaphor with people who are newer to the space of literally, and I think that's where, again, Jesus becomes such an important part of the picture. Is it's a human being that you can imagine, that you can reach out to, that you can relate to, that your psyche can actually like bring God from this omnipresent, expansive, infinite thing into something that you can directly relate to, and letting it be a relationship. The same way as if you were just meeting a new person for the first time, right?
Yeah.
You're going to go from maybe reaching out every once in a while to then it's like, oh, we're getting in a flow and we're texting every day, and then you're getting on the phone, and and that's how relationship develops. So don't put so much pressure on yourself or what it has to be. And I really just want to be a voice for that in the space of spiritual evolution. Like, there are already so many voices that are like, it has to be this, and it has to be this, and it has to be that. And I think that causes a lot of resistance for people. It causes people to strong arm God of like, if I have to come from this perfect place and completely like deny all of who I am without the actual natural evolution of that transformation, like, nah, I'm not, I can't do that, So making it accessible and attainable and relatable and easy.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and what's coming up for me as you're sharing that is like, if what you've been doing isn't working, like, why not? Like, what is the harm, right?
I always giggle at that. Like, if what you're doing isn't working, have you tried Jesus?
I mean, as silly as it sounds, but like, I mean, you may or may not, whoever's listening, maybe you're not a believer yet. Maybe you're just like really curious. And my invitation is just like, I mean,
can I say this? Fuck around and find out.
I mean, yeah. Can we say that? Sure. Fuck around, find out. Let's go. I mean, but truly, right? If you're carrying all of this burden around and you've got the stress and you've got the things and you've been trying and you're spinning your wheels, why not? Why not just be like, hey, I'm not sure about this, but like,
I was
here's my
actually
shit.
thinking about this last night.
Ooh.
Like, I have not heard of somebody trying on Jesus. I'm talking about Jesus, not religion, not church necessarily, right? Like, that's a whole other thing. I have not heard of people genuinely trying and experiencing Jesus and being like, nah,
not for me.
Like, even in the most like new age spiritual spaces, it's like, yeah, like Jesus, yes, for sure, right? I don't know. I just feel like if you're giving this honest devotion to that relationship, like, he's going to show you who he is, and then you're going to be like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, I want him in my life, because there's so much power to it, and there's so much transformation, and there's so much beauty, and there's so much peace. And this is coming from somebody who, like, all I've wanted for so long is peace. And I was looking for it in money or business or healing harder or my spiritual gifts, right? Like, who I became in knowing God. And none of it brought me the peace that coming home to and having this relationship with Jesus has. Yeah. And I wouldn't have, like, this is coming from somebody who I was vehemently, like, really resistant to it for a long time. I had a lot of deep resistance, and so quickly it's changed the peace in my life, the safety in my body, the way I feel in relationship to my work, to my family, to my friends, to my husband. Like, it's transformed everything so quickly.
And you a God girl now.
I'm a God girl.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like we could keep going on this conversation for a really long time. So much good stuff can come from prayer. But I think this is a beautiful time just to tell you guys about our amazing community.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah. So, I mean, if any of this is piquing your interest, Molly and I and God have created this amazing devotional community, specifically for women. And we're just really diving in deeper into some of these conversations. We're holding space. We're doing life together with other women who are on this walk. And we would love to have you there if this is something that you're interested in exploring. And we hope you want to come.
Yeah. And the biggest, most important piece for us is like, it is a place for you to bring all of your questions.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to come perfected. You don't have to come already knowing. Like, we are here to do life and question and be curious and explore and be in God and be in this relationship with Jesus together. We are doing weekly prayer mornings, Bible studies. We are doing bi-weekly somatic practices, which we'll get into more throughout this podcast, is like, because nervous system healing and somatic processing, like it just is. It's really important in coming home to faith in a way that feels safe in the body. So we have that going on. We're doing bi-weekly co-regulation and co-creation calls where we're getting on and like just working together and collaborating and masterminding. If you're working on something, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're just cleaning your damn house, like, we're getting together to actually just be in the energy of doing life in God. And we have a library full of practices that is growing every single day. So yeah, if this is piquing your interest, absolutely, we'll put that link down in the show notes. Come and check us out. We would absolutely love to have you. And we have a 7-day free trial, which is really cool. You can dive into all of the stuff, no commitment.
But we hope you'll stay.
Yeah.
Because we have
Stay and play.
Yeah, we have a pretty good time in there. We're in the middle of a challenge right now. So that's like, this is like, again, another labor of love that is growing. And we're just excited to see how God moves in this space. So thanks for listening today. This was so fun and juicy. And
I can't believe you spoke in tongues.
I can't believe I spoke in tongues either. Like, what is life? This is amazing.
We'll see you guys on the next episode.
Yeah, we'll see you on the next episode.